Huge news today concerning the future of Wrath. If you're a little bit bored in Ulduar, don't worry, we're finally getting to test out the next phase. Trial of the Crusader, or Trial of the Grand Crusader, the raid, will be available for testing tomorrow, but the PTR did just go live right now, and there are some changes that people weren't necessarily expecting. So let's dive right in and get you guys all caught up to date. First of all, we've seen data mines of Dancing Rune Weapon and Munching being fixed, as well as what's called Side Real Essence. And if I go to Side Real Essence, and we go down here, a new currency called Side Real Essence has been added. No indication of what it's used for. Wrong, guys, check this out. This is the badge vendor section, and there is this mob now named Animated Constellation. This is the biggest thing that we're gonna see, and we will get back into this in 1 second. Now, Dancing Rune Weapon. Dancing Rune Weapon itself has been an extremely bugged ability. It has 7 or 5 separate individual bugs, actually, within that one ability, making blood really not very useful, but blood decay DPS, if that is correctly fixed, which it should be, as we are seeing ideas about it being fixed. There's going to be tests happening literally as we speak right now on the PTR, as well as a lot of munching, ignite munching tests. If that is fixed, then blood DK DPS unironically will be the highest single target DPS spec in ICC at the end of the game. Ignite munching is an issue that fire mages have been dealing with since the beginning of Wrath, and this will now allow people with worse internet, or probably 80% of the mage player base genuinely probably doesn't even know about it. So they're gonna see some huge buffs to their actual DPS going out starting when they play on the PTR and whenever these changes go live. Past that, Omen of Clarity has received a new glyph. It has been data mined as well as we probably are gonna be seeing it here on the PTR right now, a glyph of Omen of Clarity. And this will now allow your Omen of Clarity talent to have a 100% chance to be triggered by successfully casting Feral Fire in feral forms. Did I say Feral Fire? Fairy Fire in feral forms. Does not trigger on players or player controlled pets. This makes it so that it's not necessarily being buffed in PvP as strong as it is like right now, and the glyph will take up a glyph slot. The next thing that's important is that the PTR was updated to the Dragonflight client. This is something you can see as you go into your games menu. Look at something like the options here, guys. This is all Dragonflight-esque. Now, personally, it's all aesthetic. There's probably a lot more options for you to adjust. It's just gonna be something that everyone needs to get used to. But our options menu is now officially updated to the Dragonflight client. Now, for this Animated Constellation, let me just throw a little square on it. Animated Constellation. This is where we're gonna turn in our Side Real Essence, and this is the juice. Side Real Essence, I would assume, is gonna drop from the new Heroic Plus, and look what you can buy with it. This is the hard mode loot from Ulduar 10-man. That's right, Acer's Edge. But even better, you can even get any of the items looking all the way to the end. If you guys were missing out on any of your Algalon items, Nebula Band costs 12 of these Side Real Essences. Only 12. Pulsar Gloves, 15. Strength in the Heavens. I still don't have this on either DKs. Only 12. You can also get Dark Matter, Band of the Lights, anything you need. Finally, I will have Caress of Insanity. Finally, next phase, don't worry, it'll happen. Caress of Insanity will be able to be attained, guys, for very cheap, only 20 Side Real Essence. The thing that feels bad is that the two-handers for Fury Warriors is 40. And as I was recording this video, we actually got more information from Blizzard themselves, letting us know what Side Real Essences really are. So we will have raid testing for both TOGC and Onyxia's Lair Friday, May 5th. So we should be able to test out both of the raids that are coming out. Also, we are now seeing what the change is with loot, and this is where things are gonna get kind of important. TOGC normal mode and heroic mode will share the same lockout, but you can dynamically switch between normal and heroic for each boss that you want to within the same raid size. So you can't actually have multiple lockouts. There's one 25-man lockout and one 10-man lockout. The big question here is what would happen with tribute runs here, and they did actually clarify if you do switch to normal mode at all and kill a boss or wipe wipe during an encounter, you are no longer able to get the complete tribute to insanity that week for Trial of the Grand Crusader. So if you're trying to go for those insane cloaks and not have any deaths, you can't really do that if you kill anything on normal mode, which makes a lot of sense. And here's the changes to our gear from the vendor I showed you a minute ago, the animated constellation. This vendor will give you the 10-man Ulduar hard mode loot, and it looks like it is confirmed to be tied to the new Titan Rune dungeons, which aren't available yet, but Defense Protocol beta will be something we will be able to get into. And we'll find out how many of those items we get per week or per day, actually, if there's going to be like a daily that'll give us an extra amount, or a bag drop from the main boss or last boss that also gives us an extra amount of those, so we can get all of our 10-man hard mode loot very quickly. Ulduar 10 normal mode loot will now drop in defense code beta, like I predicted, so we'll be able to get our normal mode loot in the actual normal heroic pluses, and then the hard mode loot will be dropping from this vendor. So just get your essences and you'll be able to buy it from the vendor. Ulduar 25-man loot will now drop in normal Ulduar 10, and Ulduar 10 hard mode loot still drops from 10 hard modes. Pretty nice, right? Because Ulduar 10 hard modes are very easy. To drop Ulduar 25 hard mode loot would make it kind of, you would only run 10 mans, I guess, because if you would get just one piece, you would still get one piece there. So it doesn't look like we're getting more loot yet. Ulduar 25 hard mode loot still only drops from Ulduar 25 hard mode. So you have to do Ulduar 25 if you want that hard mode loot, but if you want Ulduar 10 hard mode loot, just get it from the vendor, to be brutally honest. It's kind of a lot easier to do, and it'll be something you could farm and target a lot easier. Now, we also got a few class changes on top of the munching fix that we saw with Deep Wounds and Ignite that I talked about earlier, and the Dancing Rune weapon fixes that we can now see actually written out, where Death Coils will actually do damage. Dancing Rune weapon was not actually doing the DPS it should, so we should be able to see the correct versions of abilities being used by Dancing Rune weapon now. So that's a very big one. The glyph that we talked about for druids is also in the game now. Rogues can no longer build combo points by using Honor Among Thieves and then switching specs to still maintain those combo points before actually pulling a boss. It's kind of like a cheesy parse strategy that rogues were doing. Mages and shamans also saw a little bit of their abilities that were buggy being fixed. You can no longer swap metagems in combat, guys. This is kind of a big deal, but not really anymore now that we're not snapshotting as much. It used to be a big deal, but that's kind of like a nice change, I would say. Also, in PvP, you can no longer keep yourself in combat indefinitely by repeatedly casting a buff on player-controlled pets. Now, we do have actual Trial of Grand Crusader on the PTR itself, but for some reason, guys, you can't actually go and buy the 232 tier set gear. It's not showing up on the vendor right now, but you can see the higher item level sets of the tier gear. But it doesn't look like any of the gear was buffed from this phase. So your Ulduar gear will carry you into this phase very strongly. We were kind of curious. A lot of people wondered if we would see buffed gear, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Now, tomorrow I will be able to test out the raid and give you guys all of the information on how hard it is, but I would anticipate the normal mode of Trial of the Grand Crusader being able to be kind of zerged down. I will keep you guys updated with all of the changes, everything about phase 3 and everything about the future of the game. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like this, and I will have some brief boss guides coming out soon, but I would actually anticipate the best boss guides. They always come out from our boy Jordy, so check him out for boss guides after we have the PTR so we can test out new strategies in the raids. See you guys all on the next one, and have a good weekend.